This happened a long time ago. I was 9 years old, and this is 1966. And my near-death experience happened as a result of a martial arts accident. It was at school, one day after school, beautiful spring day. We were coming out of the school and coming down the sidewalk where all the moms were coming and pulling up in their cars to pick the kids up. And I was walking with my friend Peter. He was taking judo lessons, and he had learned to do I don't know what he called it, like a judo roll or something like that, or a throw, where he would take his opponent and roll them over his shoulder and lie them flat on the ground, which sounded pretty cool to me. I was like, oh, cool, show me. So he did that, but it was on concrete. This was not a judo mat. And Peter didn't know what he was doing. So he took me and he rolled me over his shoulder, but something went very wrong. And I was thrown head first into the concrete, and I hit that concrete hard. I took a pretty good blow to the head. It was like a lightning bolt of pain, like exploded in my head and down to my toes, and it consumed me. And so I kind of climbed to my feet. I started to run, turned around, ran back onto the playground, headed for the nurse's office. And that's where I lost consciousness. I collapsed, and I hit my head on the pavement again, kind of opened up my forehead pretty good. And I lost consciousness, but there was no break in my awareness. I was here, and then I was not. And the most difficult to explain is that time and space disappeared at that point. There was no time. There was only just right now. And that's kind of disorienting. It's a beautiful state of mind to be in, but it's hard to explain. And I didn't feel like I was still Raymond. I was aware, but I wasn't Raymond. I was like a floating sphere of awareness. And I can only describe that feeling as a perpetual unfolding of now. And I can only describe this first part as a void. There was no light, there was no dark, there was no gravity, there was no sensations. It was just like nothing. So I'm here in this state of awareness, and I was trying to figure out what was going on. I could still, I wouldn't call it thinking, because it wasn't words. Like when we have a dialogue going in our heads, it wasn't that. It was more like emotions. But I couldn't grab on. I had no reference point to anchor myself to know who I was, what was happening. And I didn't remember the accent, and it was a very chaotic feeling. And I started getting scared. And as the fear ramped up, it started getting kind of out of control. I felt like, okay, I'm losing it here. And then I came to kind of a realization that I've lost my mind. I'm going crazy. You know, that's what's happening. I've gone crazy. And it kind of made sense to me. So the next thought I had, or emotion I had, I should say, was, if I'm going crazy, if I've lost my mind, there's nothing I can do about it. And that was when I released. I just let go. And as I let go, the pleasurable sensations started there. Peace and tranquility and quiet and relaxation and contentment, those kinds of emotions. And then they started ramping up, stronger and stronger and stronger, to a state of utter bliss. It was so beautiful. And I somehow became aware of a point of white light. And I don't know how I knew that, but I knew I had to go toward the light. And as I did that, the light got bigger and more beautiful and more intense until it utterly absorbed me. And I was the white light. It was infinite love. I mean, that's a big word, infinite. It was so perfect and complete. It was like wave after wave of cleansing white love. And it was just utterly liberating. It was beautiful. It helps me to close my eyes. I can go kind of right there when I do it. It was so perfect. And things that I would see weren't actually things. It was more like everything was made out of light and everything was alive. It was very real, but in an experience like this, it's experiential. So words don't really say it. There was no time or space, but time and space are built right into our language. And so it sounds like a series of events and that I was somewhere in a place, but it wasn't like that. So I have no sense of how long it was, or because that just didn't exist. So here I am getting washed and cleansed in the white light, and I became aware of some sort of floating sphere of awareness like me. It was another being. It was my dog, Skippy, who had died a few years before. Now remember, I didn't remember the accident. None of this was making sense, but it was my dog, Skippy. And now he didn't have fur and a tail and a tongue. Yeah, he had no body, but he was a floating sphere of awareness like me. And I recognized it as Skippy, and he recognized me, and we were communicating. It was like telepathic and perfect communication. And it was love. It was Skippy. Oh, I love you. I love you. Where are we? What's happening? And he was loving me right back. We absorbed each other and became the same being. And there was another presence of some kind, a floating sphere of awareness, but this one was more complicated. It was a masculine presence, which is hard to explain because there's no gender there. I didn't have a body, but he knew me. And he said, "Come here, I want to show you some things." And then he absorbed me. We became one. And I experienced what I could only call a download. It was like billions of questions were answered in just a moment, instantly. And I understood. I understood everything. How the universe works, what our purpose is, everything made perfect sense to me. And it was not like I learned anything. It was more like remembering. I already knew it. And I wish that I could bring some of that back with me. I don't think I can. It's not that I don't remember. There are no words for that. Because words they're just symbols. They're not the actual thing. So I'm not sure I could explain or give you anything from that download, but I understood it. That was the important part. And this being that had absorbed me, I don't have a name for this being. I don't know what it was. But he said, "Raymond, I want to show you who you really are." And it opened up again to another level. It was like the entire universe opened up and shimmered in front of me. And the white light was alive. It was living love, if that's possible. So it was like everything opened up again. This is the most exquisite part. Imagine you're like the Hubble Space Telescope. You're up in space and you've focused in on a galaxy. Little points of light all swirling around and swirling around to a hot, intense, glowing center. I was one of those points of light, and there was an infinite number of them. They were all alive, and we were all connected. It was like one thing, one being. This was God. But when I used the name God, or the word God, it's probably not what you're thinking. And I'm not religious at all, but somewhere in the Bible, I can't remember where this is, I saw a passage where God was referring to him, herself, as I am that I am, which is perfect because God is like a proper noun. I am that I am is a verb, and that's what it was like. Everything was in action. And each of those little points of light was like every e.t.c fly, every human being who had ever lived. And I was one of those points of light, and we were all connected, and we were singing. I mean, it was music, but it makes music as we understand it pretty weak in comparison. This was living and breathing. It had color and dimension and all encompassing. It was alive. The music was alive. And we were singing to one another. We were all singing this, what I can only call, it was like worship. It was like worship. And the song was, "We love you. We are love." It was so beautiful. I can kind of go right there. And somehow we told me, it's not your time, you have to go back. But it wasn't words. And I didn't really know what back meant. I didn't have any memory of the accident, but I knew that whatever was happening was like going to be something other than this intense, beautiful, blissful experience. You got to go back. And it was like, I just said, no, I am not going to go back. And I threw a temper tantrum. I did. I said, no way, I'm not going back. Then I was reassured. We reassured me that it's okay. You can come back anytime you want, anytime. Once you've fulfilled your purpose, which I got it. And I used to say that I was returned to my body, but it wasn't like that. It felt like reality was reassembled itself. I've tried to think of like a visual. Say you're gonna make a fruit smoothie and you got your blender here, your fruit, and you're putting the bananas and apples and it's blending up until it's a liquid. Now, imagine if you could watch it in reverse. It turned from liquid back to solid, and it was more like reassembling reality. And then I was back on the school playground in terrible pain. I opened my eyes and I saw the emergency technicians circled around me, and my head was packed in ice. And I opened my eyes and I went, no. And I closed my eyes and I tried to go back as hard as I could. I'm going back, but someone saw me open my eyes and they're slapping me in the face. You know, wake up, Raymond. Don't go back to sleep. Wake up, wake up. There was a bunch of medical stuff that happened. I was taken to the hospital. My mother was the director of nursing at the hospital that they took me to. So here's what I know about what she told me was when she got the first phone call that Raymond's had an accident, he's not breathing. To the second phone call she got, he's breathing again, that was 12 minutes. So I'm not sure how long I was actually out, but I know that. The fire department was very close, like a block or two away. So they were on the scene really quick. And in that state where everything was made out of love, it was intense and infinite love, but it was more like potential. So I know what our purpose is. Our purpose is to love. That's what we are. That's what we do. We're here to love. And love is not a simple emotion. Like when we use the word love, it's like these warm, fuzzy feelings I have, but that's just one aspect of love. The complex part is that there it was obvious. Everything was made out of love. This is all love. And so our purpose here is to do that, and it can be difficult to do cleanly. But we're here to love with skin on and fulfill that huge potential that it was like there. So what do I think about the state of the world, and is there a new awakening coming, a new consciousness coming? I certainly hope so. Because looking at the state of the world sometimes can look pretty bleak. Especially when it comes to the evil things in the world that are obviously there. But I do think that we forget who we really are. I am that I am. We've forgotten who that is, right? And we're in this life that is very realistic. But my best guess is that what we call reality is God is playing peekaboo with his or herself, hiding, pretending like, all this is like very real, very convincing. But once in a while, God will say peekaboo and show us who we really are. And I think we've forgotten. I think that that's the state of the world, the obvious conflict and suffering that's in the world, is we've forgotten who we really are. Now, is there a new birth of a new consciousness coming? I wish I had the answers. I hope so. I can usually find the beauty and the good and the magnificence in just about anything. So, yeah, I have hope. I do. It's all going to be love. That's where it is. That's where we're going to find it.